Tips to help students deal with stress and anxiety. Trouble concentrating, an upset stomach, sleeplessness. Anxiety can show up in a lot of ways, and anxiety can be one of the most debilitating challenges that students face in classrooms today. Yet, it can also be one of the most hidden and unknown. Students from all over the world tend to have anxiety attacks. Anxiety is not an issue that can't be solved, yet it is more of an issue that needs caution and treatment. But students tend to treat anxiety as a disease where they are ashamed of having the tantrum and tend not to tell if they get the symptoms. But there is nothing wrong or weird about anxiety. It is very normal to go through anxiety, especially before a test or a big occasion. But there are ways of treating anxiety like any normal panic tantrum. So to get to know how to help students or help yourselves with anxiety tantrums, please keep watching. Number 1, practice those deep breaths. When we breathe in a slow manner, we slow down our brain, and in turn, our heart rate and blood pressure all slow down and become calmer with the help of breathing slowly. If you are in a classroom and you feel like a student is having an attack or is extremely nervous, tell them to take deep, slow breaths. And in order to not make the student feel isolated or that something is wrong with him, tell the whole class to practice the same breathing exercises. This way, the students with visible or even non-visible tantrums will be able to calm down and focus. And take it this way too. Even if you are at home and you get anxiety over studying, try this breathing technique and you'll notice the calmness take over in no time. Number 2, take a break and go outside. It's not from out of nowhere when they say that nature brings the life back to the lifeless. Well, this is the case when someone gets stressed out or has an anxiety attack. Being out in nature can also calm an anxious brain. Sometimes, just a change of scenery is what makes the difference. Breathing the cool air or to notice chirping birds can also calm an overactive worrier. Asking students to carefully observe their environment can help them turn the focus away from their worries and towards something more tangible. Ask your students these questions. How many different kinds of trees do you see? How many different bird songs do you hear? How many different shades of green are in the grass? All these observations help the students lose their worry to nature. It's like counting sheep to fall asleep. Number 3, talk about anxiety openly. Like we mentioned before, anxiety is thought to be something bad or like a disease that everybody tries to hide or lie about. But anxiety is nothing like that. It is something normal. Everybody can have an anxiety attack. A bride may have an anxiety attack a day before her wedding, or a performer may have a tantrum right before a performance. So can students. In order to make students feel like nothing is wrong with them, anxiety needs to be normalized. It's not something that can go away if you don't think about it. So why not make it something really normal in a person's life? Have an open conversation about anxiety in the classroom. Share your own experience, then ask the students to share their experiences. This way, you start to normalize discussion on a sort of taboo subject. Number 4, get kids moving. We are sure that you've heard about yoga or the exercise of the soul. Try exercising when you have an anxiety attack or just adopt it as a normal routine in your everyday life. In order to relieve stress and prevent any near trauma, exercise helps anyone who is feeling anxious. Anxiety can end up looking like anger, so if you see this, try taking a movement break. Number 5, try walking and talking. If you're going through a bad time or you feel caught up in the stresses of life, you may feel like you need to stay alone. But what you actually need is to talk to someone. Building on the moving idea, if you have a student that needs some one-on-one attention, try the walk and talk method. After some studies were done on this topic, a teacher reported the following. After a couple of loops around the playground with me, everything would feel a little better. First, it removed her from the situation. Then, it gave her a chance to explain the issue to me. Third, it got her blood pumping, which clears out the anxiety-producing energy and brings in the positive exercise endorphins. Number 6, think positive by having students keep a gratitude journal. Did you know that the human brain is very interesting and is endlessly surprising us humans? Well, the brain is incapable of producing anxious thoughts while it is producing positive thoughts stemming from gratitude. If you can trigger a positive train of thought, you can sometimes derail the anxiety. There are some teachers that provide their students with journals restrictively for writing about gratitude. The teacher may ask the students to write one thing that they are grateful for every day. And when the students feel anxious or negative about anything, the teacher tells them to reread what they wrote in their journals. This way, they get rid of the negative thoughts and stick to focusing on the positive thoughts. Journaling and writing have been used for years to help us cope with and relieve stress, and Rosick says this can work prior to testing too. By encouraging journaling, you can let students express their concerns openly instead of keeping them bottled up. Number 7, remind kids to eat healthy and stay well. For the most part, teachers don't really have a lot of control over what students eat and how much they sleep, but these things do matter when it comes to managing anxiety. Not surprisingly, a healthy diet and plenty of sleep make a difference in how well a student is able to handle situations that could be overwhelming. It's one of the reasons that snack and rest time are an essential part of the day for both preschool students and even the older students, even though they won't really admit it. If you can find a way to work these things into your school day, they can make the difference for your kids who tend to worry. Even if you can't control these things, you can still remind them by talking about healthy food choices or wrapping it into the curriculum when you can. Number 8, share a story with your students. When my worries get too big, I read a book about it. Some students are not receptive to one-on-one interaction or talking directly about their problems, but they could be down for talking when they see that their peers and friends are in the process with them. So try to make time for reading. You can choose a story with very relatable stories of the child in distress. And after reading the story, try to have a discussion with the students. You can start the discussion by talking about a familiar experience that you went through as a child, and then have your students notice that they are not alone. And a lot of children go through stress and anxiety. This way, you can help these students open up and relieve themselves from stress. Number 9, try creating a space where students can express their anxiety. You've probably heard of classroom safe spaces, and this is a great option to offer if you have students dealing with anxiety. Another idea, which can stand on its own or be part of your safe place, is offering classroom fidgets. Sometimes this can work wonders in just giving kids an outlet. You can have stress balls set and ready on the desks of the students. There may be a small corner in the room where all the supplies for relieving stress are placed. For example, stress balls, papers and pens to draw, a boxing bag for really aggressive students, or just a book for those that need to read in order to calm down. Number 10, offer individual accommodations. For older students, accommodations can make all the difference. Many students struggle with performance anxiety, especially when it comes to tests. When a student is feeling anxious, their brain simply can't function as effectively. When we can set up our tests and assignments so anxious students are less stressed, they are likely to perform better. Extended time and cue sheets could help kids who suffer from test anxiety. The good news about anxiety is that it is one of the most manageable mental health struggles that children face in the classroom. With the right support and strategies, most children are able to develop strategies that help them manage their anxiety.